Have you ever told yourself a little lie just to feel better, just to get through the day? Of course you have. We all do it. But what if that tiny, seemingly harmless lie isn't harmless at all? What if it's actually a brick in a prison you're building around yourself without even realizing it? Well, today we're going to explore why our brains are so good at building these prisons and, more importantly, how we can find the key to get out. Right in that moment, when you believe your own lie, it feels safe, doesn't it? It feels like you're in control. It's that moment you tell yourself the toxic relationship is just passionate or that your dead-end job is stable. You convince yourself you're fine, even when you know, deep down, everything is falling apart. But here's the catch. That feeling of safety is a complete illusion. That comfortable lie, it's a cell. And when you stack enough of those lies together, you get a full-blown prison that silently eats away at your sanity, your health, and your future from the inside out. To really understand just how damaging this can be, let me tell you a story. This is the story of a man named Bhima, a man who built his entire life on a foundation of self-deception and the crushing price he eventually had to pay. For a whole decade, 10 years, Bhima chose to ignore the fact that his fiancée was constantly cheating on him. It was obvious to everyone else, but every time she'd stumble home at 3 a.m, he had an excuse ready. Oh, it's just overtime. She's just at a friend's house. Why? Because facing the actual objective truth was just too much for his ego to handle. He chose the comfortable lie over the painful reality. And then, when he was 32, the whole thing just collapsed. She left him, just like that, with no real explanation. But the thing that truly crushed him wasn't just losing her. No, it was the gut-wrenching realization that he had lied to himself for 10 solid years. His body is now paying the price with chronic stress and what we call cognitive dissonance. That's the deep mental pain you feel when you're trying to believe two opposite things at once. It almost destroyed him. So this begs the question, why on earth do our brains do this to us? Well, it turns out this isn't some modern problem or a personal flaw. It's actually an ancient feature baked right into our DNA. It was a survival tool that helped our ancestors thrive, but now, in our modern world, it's starting to break us. Okay, now this is where it gets really fascinating. A biologist named Robert Trivers came up with this theory. He said that we evolved the ability to lie to ourselves for one very specific reason, to get better at lying to other people. Think about it. If you 100% believe your own lie, you're not going to give off those little tells, the sweaty palms, the shaky voice. You can sell your story with total authentic conviction. And this strategy had some huge advantages for our ancestors. First, it gets rid of the cognitive load. Actively lying is exhausting for your brain. But if you believe the lie, all that mental energy is freed up. Second, if you get caught, you can argue your case so convincingly that you might get a lighter punishment or not at all. And finally, and this is a big one, it lets you project this incredible, sometimes unearned confidence that helps you attract mates and climb the social ladder. So that's the why from an evolutionary perspective. But how does the brain actually pull off this magic trick? How does it physically choose comfort over truth right there in the moment? Well, it's something called the ostrich effect. And yeah, it's pretty much what it sounds like. Our brain's tendency to stick its head in the sand. You know this feeling. It's not checking your bank account because you're scared of what you'll see. It's avoiding the news because it's just too much. It's ignoring that follow-up call from the doctor. We actively dodge crucial information just to avoid this psychological sting. And brain scans show us exactly what's going on up there. When we're faced with something that threatens our worldview, the logical, analytical part of our brain literally powers down. At the exact same time, the emotional parts of our brain, the parts that manage conflict, they fire up like crazy. So our brain literally stops trying to analyze the problem and starts trying to manage our feelings about the problem. And this really gets to the heart of it. Our brain's number one job isn't to be a fact checker. When we are scared or stressed or sick, its top priority is to find calm, and it will grab onto any convenient lie or piece of magical thinking it can find to get back to that peaceful state. Now, that short-term calm, that feeling of being in control, it feels great in the moment, but it comes with a brutally high price tag in the long run, a price we pay with our relationships, our health, and sometimes even our lives. And here's the really messed up part. Our modern society often rewards that false confidence. It can make you look tougher, more attractive, more of a leader. You get an instant social win. But underneath that shiny exterior, the internal cost is absolutely lethal. It leads to this quiet surrender, this giving up on life's real challenges. In our relationships, self-deception is like acid. It just eats away at everything. You can't be truly honest with another person if you're not even being honest with yourself. And that creates this huge emotional distance, this simmering resentment. And eventually, just like we saw with Bhima, a total collapse of the very connection you were trying so hard to save. And the cost isn't just emotional. It is brutally physical. Research shows that people who constantly use what's called repressive coping, that's a fancy term for just pushing down and ignoring your real feelings, have an 80% higher risk of developing high blood pressure. Just let that sink in. The simple act of ignoring how you feel can dramatically increase your risk of a major health crisis. And it doesn't stop at blood pressure, not by a long shot. Look at this. For your heart, we're talking hypertension and coronary heart disease. It weakens your immune system, making you a walking target for every bug going around. It messes with your hormones, which can lead to an earlier death. It's even been linked to faster cancer progression. The mental stress of keeping up the lie literally turns into physical disease inside your body. Okay, so what do we do about this? I mean, how do we possibly break free from a survival mechanism that's so deeply wired into our own biology? Well, the very first step is to give yourself a break. That fear you feel when you think about facing the truth, that is not a weakness, it's not a character flaw. It is a completely natural, ancient response from a brain that is doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect you from immediate pain. But here's the thing we have to understand. That comfort zone you build for yourself out of all those little lies, it's not a sanctuary, it's not a safe harbor. It is the very place where your potential, your growth, and your future go to die. The absolute bravest thing you can possibly do is start to take it apart, one painful truth at a time. So I want to leave you with a question to really think about. What is the one truth in your life that you are actively running from right now? And if you're really honest with yourself, what is the true long-term price you are paying for that short-term comfort? Because at the end of the day, the temporary suffering that comes from facing a hard truth is always, always a better deal than the permanent damage that comes from living in a comfortable illusion. The choice, as it always is yours.